In this video, we're going to explore some more independent subjunctives, specifically the optative, the deliberative, and the potential. Before we get going, let's review the moods. Latin verbs can be conjugated into any one of the three moods, and the tone and meaning of each conjugated verb is dictated by the mood. Here are some examples. For the indicative, we have ambulat, he walks. For the imperative, ambula, walk. And for the subjunctive, ambulet, let him walk. The subjunctive is a statement from a non-neutral observer who has a bias or opinion that they wish to express. Here are some examples. We might see the speaker's will, as in, he should not talk right now. Or the speaker's wish, like, would that Rome win the war? And finally, we might see some possibilities, such as, Cicero might speak this evening. It's really important to keep in mind that there is no one way to translate the subjunctive verb into English. Rather, you must learn the nuances of each construction to provide an accurate translation. Are you ready to learn some constructions? We're going to start off with the optative, which expresses a wish. Do you recognize the verb opto optare, to choose or to want? We get option in English. And very frequently, this optative subjunctive is going to be introduced by an adverb called utinam, which we translate in English roughly as if only or would that. Now, the optative subjunctive uses the present, imperfect, and pluperfect tenses, depending on the exact time that you wish to express. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. Utinam vivam. We'll translate utinam first as if only vivam I might live. So utinam vivam would mean if only I might live. You could also translate utinam as would that if you wanted to, and so the sentence would say would that I might live. It's up to you and your stylistic preference. How about the next sentence? Utinam Pompeius Magnus Caesaram vincat. Can you try that one on your own? All right, utinam, let's say if only, for the sake of example. So if only Pompeius Magnus, or as we would say in English, Pompey the Great, Caesaram vincat, would conquer Caesar, or might conquer Caesar. Whatever works for you and is best in context. And you see some of the unreal aspects of the subjunctive. That is, if you know your Roman history, you know that Pompey did not conquer Caesar. But this expresses the wish, not a statement of fact. That's why we put it in the subjunctive. Now, let's look at the deliberative subjunctive. Can you recognize the derivative for deliberative? What word in Latin does this come from? Maybe think about the zodiac. It comes from the word libra, meaning scales. And so you're weighing or debating between two different things. So the deliberative subjunctive asks a deliberative or deliberating and usually rhetorical question. It uses either the present to express current or future situations, or the imperfect subjunctive if you want to express a past situation. In English, we usually use a question mark, and we use the word should as a modal auxiliary in order to express the deliberative. For example, quid faciam we would usually render in English as what should I do? How do you think we should translate the next sentence? Caesar Gallos Britanos opugnet. Well, if we're trying to get that modal auxiliary helping verb should, we would say, should Caesar attack the Gauls or the Britons? So this is our deliberative subjunctive. If you're weighing between two things, pun intended with our Libra, then you're working with a deliberative subjunctive. Let's look at our last subjunctive for this video, the potential subjunctive, which shows possibility. And the word possum is our derivative. The English modals that are often used to render the potential subjunctive in English are could, would, may, and might. For the potential subjunctive, we can use the present, imperfect, or pluperfect tense depending on the time that we are talking about. Let's look at a couple examples. Our first one, quis eam amet. We would translate this in Latin if we wanted to render it as a potential subjunctive as, who could love her? However, depending on the context, you might also be able to say, who would love her? Or who might love her? You can use your stylistic preference and the context to figure out which one you think is the best translation. Any thoughts for the second sentence? Quis putet aliquam urbem meliorum esse? Quis putet might be who would think, and then we are going into indirect statement here, that any city, aliquam urbem, is better, meliorum esse. What about our last sentence? Any thoughts here? Cicero hodie in forum dicat. Yeah, we might translate this as Cicero may speak in the forum today. In all three of these sentences, we're showing potentiality and possibility. Okay, would that you continue learning the subjunctive.